this Saturday afternoon. This is the Fandom of Shaurya, Anokhi, Kahani, here for the last episode of this season and your podcast today. How you guys doing?
I'm doing good. Absolutely
And
good.
we have a new member of the fandom here today, Nayantara. How are you?
I'm doing fine, as good as I
Good to
can be.
good to have you. We saw you on the debate last week, and you were phenomenal. And we thought, let's have you over and get a lowdown on how you're doing, and of course your views about Shaurya and Anokhi, which we heard about, anyways, on the debate while you were there. Before we get started on today, where we're going to talk about post-marital life of Shaurya and Anokhi, and of course the issues that were brought up in the show this week. We're going to talk more about the post-marriage life of a woman and what is expected of her and the changes that are expected of her while the family of the boy makes no such change to their lives. And all the changes are expected of a girl. And we're going to talk about these issues and why such changes are expected of only the girl. But before we get started on that, I wanted to get a lowdown on what really happened on the show this week because I believe a lot happened, and we did do a review of whatever happened this week. But let's hear it from Rinayan. Do you have a summary for us?
Yeah, well, so basically for this week, we have three specific things happening in Shaurya Anokhi Ki Kahani. The first thing is Shaurya's character has undergone a change, and that essentially happens to be the fact that Shaurya, the very loving, doting husband, before this has suddenly now started having some issues with the very woman he has married. Secondly, Anokhi is definitely more than the fiery girl that she has been. She's obviously being very fiery, but at the same time, she is showing this very nice adjusting side to her as well, where she's kind of negotiating more with Shaurya, which is quite interesting to watch. And more importantly, the Sabarwal family in the very backdrop, where Anokhi has entered basically, where we are getting to see a lot of familial dynamics and we are getting to see a lot of things happening there. So yeah, altogether, this is what has been happening this week in Shaurya Anokhi Ki Kahani, and I'm very excited to talk about the things that have been happening.
So my question to both of you is: didn't you not feel, because this is what we wrote in our review as well, is we felt that there was a complete 180 in terms of Shaurya's character. His entire character arc seems to have taken a complete flip. He's not somebody who's effervescent. He's not somebody who doesn't think through stuff. He's not somebody who doesn't listen. He's never had this side to him where he's not listening to her. Even when he's angry with her, he does listen. And this is the first time that he's refusing to even listen to her. And I thought that was completely out of character for Shaurya's character, completely off tangent, off arc, especially when he's now the husband, and there's a lot more responsibility to their relationship than when they were not even dating, right? So that's one part of it. And the second part of it is that there's no reason for him to be angry. I don't know why he's angry in the first place. I mean, that foundation of anger doesn't. I mean, we don't get it. I don't know if you got the reason. Manushi, what do you feel?
I feel Shaurya's character since last two episodes has been so off. I can't relate to him. I mean, that guy is angry at Anokhi for no good reason. She's coming up to him for a talk about the incident that happened at college, about the whole event she wants to discuss, and here Shaurya is like he's being so ignorant, and he's like, I don't want to talk, just go away. I mean, that's the rudest thing I would have ever heard Shaurya say. Even when he's been angry at times, there has been a maturity in Shaurya that we've been seeing in all these months. But this sudden curve of Shaurya, I mean, the arc of Shaurya's character has fallen. I mean, he didn't even listen to her. He didn't pay any heed. His wife was worried. He saw that she was worried, and on top of that, that incident that happened, somebody dropped coffee, hot steaming
So
coffee.
publicly, he humiliates her publicly. That was completely unbecoming of the guy that we know. I mean, a man who humiliates his wife publicly, that's not the Shaurya Sabharwal we stand, right? And
Yes,
then of course, I mean, what is preventing her from texting him? If she can speak to him in person, what's preventing her from? And he won't pick up her calls or either. What's preventing her from texting him?
I just feel
I don't
Shaurya.
know I don't know the logic of the plot. Seriously,
Shaurya maybe has double thoughts right now. One that is, he's clouded right now. One that is coming from Devi and Sabharwal's, everything is going at the back of his head. And one side, Anokhi is kind of trying to talk to him. So he's not able to get a clear point of view of what is happening. And that is, blocking his ability to think straight at one point. And but humiliation of your wife publicly is completely out of Shaurya's character. Like, I would never expect Shaurya to do that. I mean, Vineet Jiju is that kind of a person who would drag Bubbly and insult her publicly. But Shaurya, when he did that, I was taken aback. I was like, no, what is this shoddy writing here? Please, this is
no,
not the
this is not the writing that we. This is not the level of writing we expect from this story at all. This is not. This is definitely not, and this is our feedback. Literally, definitely not the writing that we are expecting from the show, especially when they are in the last track of this season, is at least. So coming to how Anoki is being treated in her new home, and that's kind of very weird as well in terms of how she's not only being treated by her husband but also being treated by her in-laws, and she's combative. She's definitely immature in her attitude towards everything. She wants to fight for everything. She won't take the maturity route and kind of take some, give some, not have an open fight, work her way around stuff. She won't do it. And Devi is just waiting to have the fights every day. She leads Anokhi to those fights, and somehow she ends up. I mean, there were issues like for example, oh, I don't want to change my name. Instead of openly saying, hey, listen, let's talk about it later. Why do I have to do it right now? And then having a chat with her husband first about it, and then having him lead it instead of having a full face off would have been a better idea, right? And announcing to the entire household that she's applied for a job, um, having a face off, knowing that this is something that they won't like. Another way of she's combative. She knows they won't like it, but she still goes ahead and does it. And of course, this is not Anoki that we know. She's supposed to be the mature one, and this has been said many times in the script that Anoki's the mature one, and Shaurya is the kid in that relationship. But she comes across as the combative one right now. She's the one who's actually starting all the fights. She's the one who's literally going to them, and she understands that they're not the same. And it's a flip flop every time. And one moment she understands that they are old fashioned and they might not buy into her way of thinking, because she's so understanding when Shaurya tells them, yeah, I'll make her understand. At night when she catches Shaurya being understanding towards them, and she says, yeah, I completely understand how you're dealing with them. But the very second moment she goes and she kind of fights it out with them. So I don't get that flip flop in her character because it's not consistent. That's not consistent writing, and I don't know how that's justified in the script at all.
Yeah, so I feel Anokhi, if you have to understand how Anokhi at this point is behaving, then there are two particular points that I would highlight to that aspect. Then first thing would be Anokhi is behaving from a place where she is not thinking that she is not being the practical person. So for Anokhi, I think the whole thing has become this way that she's kind of thinking that, okay, I have to tell my husband, but why not like try to tell it to the family first of all? So that is where another of my point comes in, that Anokhi is still an immature character, as you say. And that is where, there's a lot of space for Anokhi's growth, a growth that we really needed to explore. And perhaps, I would have appreciated if the authors would have kind of, if the creators would have kind of taken it slowly there. But that doesn't happen at this point. And that is why we have suddenly, as an audience, seen a huge flip that way, where Anokhi is not discussing things with Shaurya and she's kind of coming into the forefront and being discussing stuff.
So I don't
But
get
in
it.
all
At some
fairness,
point
I
in
would say
time,
that Anokhi is doing it.
no. So let me just interrupt you over there. I don't get it. They sometimes portray Anokhi as the mature one and Shaurya as the kid, and then at other times Shaurya is the mature one because he's definitely older and he knows how to manage the situation, and Anokhi is the impertinent one. She's the kid. So which one is it? I mean, of course, nobody's perfect. None of them, they're amazingly well written characters. But then when these discrepancies are highlighted, then we as an audience and reviewers for the last 6 months are really get confused about, okay, where did this character really go wrong? Where did the mess up happen? Because this is not what we were, in the character arc of things, this is not what this character should be doing. She's displayed so much
So that's where,
maturity in that entire process of thinking through stuff and saying, hey, my career is more important and this guy is not the right guy for me. Even though I love him, I'm going to walk out. That kind of maturity, right? So she had that foresight. That's the character she is. And then all of a sudden she's combative and she's like fighting with his family. Hey, that's not the same. That's definitely not the same person. There is this other angle to this entire story where there are issues being dealt with every day, the name change, which we pointed out earlier. She fought with her parents about the issue of why should I cut my relationships with our family when there was a very important issue to pick up, because women are expected to give priority to their in-laws and not their own families, and that's a very, very, very important issue that Southeast Asian families have to deal with, and they should, because there should be no discrepancy between the fact that both families of the boy and the girl have to be treated the same way, and this entire thinking that the boy's family is more important than the girl's family needs to just be taken away. Now, having said that, there are other things that have been highlighted since then. Last week, the one was the name change. Again, the way she dealt with this was very combative. It could have been dealt with in a better way. But having said that, the name change issue, the way Devi keeps pushing her into the kitchen as if she's a housemaid, how she's expected to take care, how she's expected to change herself, how she's expected not to pick up a job, all these little things that have been highlighted through the week very, very quickly, though. The whole idea is the girl is expected to change herself the moment she enters the new household. But the household is not supposed to mold themselves according to the girl's how the girl is. Now, what, according to you, Nayan, is a good message here in terms of, okay, now that what is a new age message here? Why should a girl change herself so much when she gets married? Because if a marriage is between the equals, should is it fair to say that the household should not expect so many changes from the girl, especially in a joint family like this? Now, if that doesn't happen, how will this amalgamation of a new person into the family happen? And that's a sociology question, of course, but it's also the amalgamation of a new member, a totally different outlook member into a family that's already existing. So how does this entire process make sense when you don't force the new member into the ways of a family?
I believe communication is a very important thing that is very important when a new member is getting added to a family. So everybody in the family needs to understand that adjustment is basically on everybody. When you are taking a new person into the family, that our societies, South Asian societies essentially, are very patriarchal. We all understand that. Obviously, the girl has to move into another family. And this is also a very important thing when you take an Indian society or South Asian society into consideration, specifically Indian society, because you do tend to move into a family. You do not suddenly, your first option is not living with your husband, but you do get into a family. So what happens is when you go into a family where there's one girl, and obviously there's a whole setup of people awaiting you, there is a certain kind of dominance that is very indirectly there somehow, that they kind of expect that you're one person opposite to 10 people in the family already. So rather than us changing, you should be the one, the onus is on you. But that is where I think communication is the key. That is where they need to realize that one person coming into the family is also coming from a family where there are 5 other people who have prepared that person. So Anokhi also comes from certain influences. This family has its influences. Until they are willing to talk in the middle and the communication part works out, and that is where the will part also comes in. Everybody has to understand that there is a role to play on every individual's part in making that person comfortable, and that person trying to understand that I have entered a family, I have made my choice. I would also have to respect certain things that are special to them. So this communication and this entire thing of conceding 1 point from this side and conceding 1 point from that side can actually lead us towards an ideal setup. But that is something that we don't tend to have at this point. We don't tend to have this at that point because there's a family which expects its daughter-in-laws to behave a certain way, and they think they're right. So until and unless that is being addressed, we would not have an ideal setup for that matter.
So that's actually very helpful. Communication indeed is a key to not only a marriage but also any other relationship. Manushi, you're gonna get married into a very traditional Gujarati family now, where the rest of the family will hold on to traditional or egalitarian roles. Your to be husband is pretty modern. He's not going to hold on to. He's as I hear, and you've spoken about it before on the show as well. That he's exceptionally modern, and he doesn't think of marriages as you're going to walk yourself into a marriage of equals. Now, having said that, you're not going to have the issues with your husband of, okay, I'm not equal, or this is a traditional setup. But on the outside of it, you're gonna live in a family, you're gonna live in a household that is kind of traditional, right? So there are these two sets of expectations where your partner is very forward looking, and he expects you to behave in a certain way, but the bigger end of the family expects you to behave in another way. How is this balance gonna work for you? Now, especially because the bigger set of your parents, his parents expect you to be the wife material as per them, the expectations are, and then your husband, your to be husband himself, doesn't really conform to what they are thinking. And then over a period of time, you will develop your own choices as well as a couple, and those might really not be the choices that the extended family has. How will you strike on your own here?
What I feel is that as a couple, you should set a boundary that after a certain level, no third person should be allowed between the two. Because what the case here is that in my case, if I and Jainish have a fight about something, I would really not appreciate my mother-in-law or my father-in-law to intervene between our fights or try to resolve it, because it's between the two of us. Like Nayan rightly pointed, communication is the key. So unless and until we don't sort it, it's between us and it should be behind closed doors. I don't really believe in fighting publicly with your spouse openly. That's something I would really not like about Anokhi again, because she was openly doing that with Shaurya in front of Devi and in front of everyone. I think that's a very big insult to your relationship. And other thing is like, okay, yeah, Jainish has the modern mindset, but what I believe with men is like they do have to they are particularly sandwiched between the wife and the family. So it takes a lot of effort from a man's side to strike a balance between your wife and family. So Jainish, what he does is that he will always tell me that if you have a fight with anyone in the family, if you have any discussions, go and upfrontly talk to them. Don't make me the mediator, because in most of the cases, what happens is that what Anokhi said, that don't be the mediator between me and your family. Let me particularly voice out, and I think I really believe in that as well, because I would
But
want
then why was she angry when he did not interfere? Well, because that's what she told him to do. She told him not to be in the middle of the situation.
exactly. that is where Anokhi is faltering, right? She's saying something and she's expecting something at the same time, which is what Shaurya rightly said, na, कि लड़कियों को समझना इतना मुश्किल क्यों होता है. He said that very correctly. And I think women are very complicated when it comes to expecting certain things from your husband, but at the same time, when they favor you in front of the family, you feel that your impression is going to get lowered down, which is why you don't want your husband to interfere, you know. Yeah, so that's what Anokhi is literally juggling between. She wants Shaurya's support fully, but at the same time, she doesn't want ki the gharwale should think ki she's brainwashing Shaurya or something. So that's again an aspect.
Yeah, so you can't really live in a relationship uh, between two people trying to make a third person happy or a third party happy, right? So
Obviously.
so literally, and you know, modern thinking couples who are also referred as androgynous couples because you share a lot of traits together. You kind of have traits like, you know, you go out and work together and you try to problem solve together, but at the same time you are emotionally expressive towards each other. You can cry with each other, you can talk with each other, you can express yourself with each other. So couples that can connect like that are called androgynous couples. Now they also identify more with each other. I believe Shaurya and Noki are such a couple because they connect to each other that way. Now, having said that, when two people have similar ways of thinking, it's easier to communicate with each other. In traditionally, people like and then Sean and Nas are also androgynous to a great extent because they have so much in common. They can talk with each other. Traditional thinking couples like Tej and Devi, they can't communicate. They're on different planes at all. They always they don't talk about themselves. They talk about other people and how to spoil other people's lives at all times. So the thing over here is that when traditional couples when modern thinking couples, sorry, have problems, the women in modern thinking couples always are thinking about, you know, they reject gender roles. So Noki will definitely, you know, when an issue crops up, she's thinking, you know, all right, this issue we got to sort it out together. Whereas if at that point in time Shaurya is going back to his gender role of, oh, I'm the man here and the woman should be sorting this out and I should be just sitting in the back and trying to overlook things, that's not going to work anymore, right? So women over here, the equality aspect of the relationship becomes so important to them that they will, the respect that they want from the institution and from their man is so important, they will reject the institution over respect. Now, is that how you guys feel too? Are you so vigilant of your relationship that you will always try to watch how your partner is contributing towards your relationship, how committed they are to the marriage? And if you feel that at some point in time they're unfair and out of balance, will that be a very, very, will that thing be a trigger to a very strong reaction from you? Because equality, it is also equality, when there's equality in relationship also means that there is a more there's bigger opportunity for conflict. So when that happens, how are you going to react, Nayan? If you have a spouse like that, how are you going to react?
Well, for me, it's very important to actually sense whether there is a certain acceptance that I get from my man when it comes to that first issue that crops in between us. I will be very fair and say that yes, if I see him being unfair in our equation where we both have a common set of expressions, I will definitely not be very happy about it. But having said that, I've married the man. So I love the man. I would try to first of all see when I point this thing out to him, how accepting is he of the folly that he has made there? How accepting is he of the fact that there is a certain unfairness that I am feeling? Because as a person who is also in that equation, my feelings are equally important and his feelings are again. So if I see him outrightly rejecting it, that is going to be an issue because that is something that might be a concurrent thing. and that is going to be a problem. But if I do see him having a certain stance of acceptance and working it out with me in terms of how things can go on from that point, he might surprise me. But the thing is, if he has a sense of acceptance, I would be definitely more willing to work out on it, because I will also have flaws. I will have a problem, I'll call that out, but I'll also try to see how reactive is he to how I want to talk about this. And that will determine me and my reaction towards him.
So is equality very important to you, Nayan?
Very, very important to me, yes, but I believe as human,
No, no,
as
no, no ifs and buts. If equality were to be punctured in a relationship or affected in a relationship, would you value equality over love?
again, I will, okay, so for me, equality will obviously come first, because if there's no equality, I will never be able to love the man. That's the thing.
Well said. All right, Manushi, same question. You.
Okay, for me, equality and self-respect come any day above love, because in a relationship, if you don't have self-respect and if you don't have equality, I don't think love exists, because love, equality, and self-respect go hand in hand. Literally, they go hand in hand. And if my man doesn't respect my choice, or it's vice versa, I would respect his opinions. But if he's being out of picture and saying that, it's not my fault, deal it with yourself, then I'm going to be very pissed, and it's going to be a very big trigger for me, because I would really expect, because post marriage, in for a girl, her husband is the first person they look up to, because they are the only person you lean on to in that household when it's new for you to be in that environment. And if your husband steps back, I think it's highly disappointing. And I feel really sorry for Anokhi when everyone starts clouding her, and she's been cornered by everyone, literally. I think that's very, very upsetting, personally.
So for both of you, we concur that self-respect and respect are both more important than love is in a relationship. Perfect. So what do you think? Where do you think this is going to go? Because next week is the last week for the show, and I know we all are sad that the show is ending here in this season. But where do you think this is going to go with Anoki and her self-respect? And of course the character of Shaurya, which got so botched this week.
So I think there would be a massive trigger that we will get, where perhaps Shaurya will have to come in terms to the fact that the very man that he has defended as Alok Chachu. So for Shaurya, you have family is a very important institution. Now, when he sees that this very Chachu on whom he has, this is his uncle, on whom he has got such trust, I'm kind of hoping that the truth of Alok Chachu will come out. Anokhi will have some proof to that end. And when that happens, that in itself is going to be a massive trigger for Shaurya, because he has been defending with this almost bullheaded intensity, that fact that Alok Chachu will not do something like that. So that is something that will act as a trigger. And that is where he would start understanding that Anokhi has been all right about this situation. And Anokhi definitely will, again, the Jugni that she is, that we call her to be, in her very Jugni style with which we have started this show, will definitely defend herself with in front of all the challenges. I am hoping that this is where this is going actually. And as for the Sabharwal family, that is one thing that I am perhaps very interested to see. How are they going to handle this stuff around Alok and him being proven a certain way that this man is guilty? How are they going to do this? So yeah, that is what I'm kind of looking towards. Maybe the show is
Manushi.
See, I see
going
two
towards
things
that.
happening
Maybe.
here. Firstly, with Anokhi's innocence being proven, Shaurya is going to go back and recall, because as a character, we know that Shaurya will make thousand mistakes, but he'll repent for it all. That's how Shaurya has always been. So he will go back to his mistakes and realize that all this while Anokhi was right. And not just Alok Chachu's case, he'll try to understand that Anokhi as an individual is trying to adjust in this house, and he will be the gentleman and offer her the hand and be the original Shaurya that we stand actually. And Sabharwals maybe with this whole revelation, Sabarwals might just try to understand Anokhi a bit, not entirely, but a bit. They would try to resonate with her, at least at some point. Debo Kitty will definitely be very shocked because it's their own father, even Gayatri Chachi for that matter, but they will understand that a wrong person is wrong. And I think that can be an eye opener for the Sabarwal family that Anokhi was right all this time.
Okay, well, here we are. This is the last episode of this podcast for this season. It was lovely having you girls over from the fandom doing the podcast this entire season. And we hope to have you back again soon with another season of the Shaurya no Kiki Kahani podcast very soon. Thank you so much for being here with us. Take care. Bye.